Welcome to Great Talk and Entertainment. I'm your host, KJ, and this is the YouTube channel where I review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and much more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talk and Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, everyone. My name is KJ, and this is my spoiler review for the new Marvel television studio on Disney Plus, the new series, IronHeart. This is episode 3, spoiler review. If you have not seen this show yet, please pause this. Go watch it. But before you go and watch the show, I forgot. Could you please hit that thumbs up button? It would truly help my YouTube channel out. And I truly appreciate it if you just hit that thumbs up button. The smallest things makes the biggest things for me in this YouTube channel. So thank you in advance. Come back. Let me know what you think about episode 3 and season 1 of IronHeart in the comments below. So again, this is a spoiler review. Y'all been warned. Now, let's get into it. This episode starts off with everyone celebrating with a lot of cash as Riri and the rest of the crew are celebrating, and they're just happy that they did this big old heist and got a lot of cash about it. And everyone's talking about what they're going to do with it. As we know, like, Riri wants to invest this more in her suit, and other people explain what they want to do. But then in this episode, we see Clown, who puts on the hood cloak, and John, the cousin, gets so upset about it. There's a big, intense argument that's going on between John, Clown, and Riri, as they're saying this is no big deal. We just want to know about this. But Riri is really curious about this energy that she feels off this cloak. But luckily, Parker Hood, aka Hood, stops this almost a fight that was about to go on to happen. And then the next mission is robbing Helium, a company that is getting close to Hunter Mason, the owner. And I guess the reason why they want to obviously hijack this company, one, they put out small farm businesses out, and they want to do the same thing they did on the last one on the company called Tunnel. So there's a lot of that going on. And obviously this is come to find out later, this is a very difficult task for somebody like John to find any weakness and any info on this guy and of Hunter Mason. And obviously, but the still goal is to force him to give half of the percentage of the company and some cash. And also in this story, we see, like, it's kind of like with Hood, he's kind of like the villain that's convincing a future hero that they're the hero. The villain's the hero, and the heroes, like the Avengers, or the villains in this type of case. And this ain't the first time they've done this type of story in the MCU. The easy example is obviously Thanos. Thanos believes he's the hero, but in everybody else's eyes, he's the villain, right? So it's kind of like that. Same thing with like a Norman Osborn or, Dr. Octavius. Use your imagination. There's a lot of Marvel villains and characters who use this type of story before, so it's not new, but it is a refreshing take on it of how they're presenting, because it's like Robin Hood in a way, steal from the rich, give to the poor type thing. But in this case, it's just the crew, Hood's like crew, because it seems like he has a really sad childhood life. And even in this episode, we see Riri ask Hood about it, and he just gets annoyed when she asks him questions about it, and she doesn't like the answer. Also, Xavier and Riri had this conversation in the next scene where Xavier's kind of worried because even though she bought him some really nice, awesome headphones, but he's a little concerned how she went from being broke to having cash to buy these really nice headphones, to like up to date. And, he's just worried about her, but they have that conversation. And then later in this episode, Joel finds out Riri's place and wants to build and invent things. So what I mean by that is he found where she lives, and he's expressing like now he has this like fiend addiction to what he wants to do, right? And it's very interesting because we learn that Joel is not his actual name in this episode, is Ezekiel Stain, which his dad is Obadiah Stain, is his father, like I said. And it was really revealing when that scene started because he obviously found where Riri's lived at and her mom, obviously. And they, it seemed kind of cutesy, but kind of stalkerish. But now it really makes sense because, she looks up to Tony Stark, and this is the guy that, died trying to fight Iron Man, basically. And the whole plane thing was just a cover up, and he told Riri that as she went over there to try to get this like device where she can, sneak it in, basically. And it's like a laser like thing to cut a piece off of Hood's cloak, and that was the goal. And so they get that, but it was a real interesting moment because, like I said, he's more excited. He has this like urge and thrill to create things, invent things, make these machines, just like Tony Stark and his father. It's like she unlocked this beast in him, or this different side of him that he might have just been burying deep down inside of him. And she just unburied something within him, boosting up his confidence. They bonded. They seem like they have a lot that they can relate to. But, we seen that episode like they're really there to help each other. And he even tried to implant some like robotic thing within his arm. He cut his own like wrist or whatever or something, but she helped him out. But they have a really strong bond and a friendship. And a lot of people is like, is Riri becoming the villain? There's a possibility of that because in this episode, when they finally do the mission, everything's going kind of smoothly, but then it all goes straight to shit. Like the plan stops working, everybody gets locked in, and the owner of this company, Hunter Mason, he knew that Hood was coming. He didn't know exactly who, but he knew there was somebody coming to get him. And, this place kind of reminds me of Iron Man 2, where Iron Man and War Machine fought, Ezekiel's father. Not exactly like it because it's in two different states, but as that reminiscence of it. Like, it reminds me of it. I should say that's the word I'm looking for. It reminds me of it. And what I liked about that is this is like we see AI Natalie show a lot more companion and concern, because in this episode as well, before all the even AI Natalie blackmailed Riri just to hang out, and they went to a few spots. And the one spot, before she even hung out with Joel, obviously, or Ezekiel now as he's revealed, that they went back to the place where Riri's stepdad's auto shop was, and she got triggered. But it was really interesting, too, because the reason why I'm bringing this up now is when you see Riri trying to help do this mission of robbing this company and it goes sideways, it's because that Riri has realized this AI version of Natalie, her childhood best friend, knew how to calm her down with like a breathing technique, breathe in, breathe out type scenarios. And it really shocked her because we know that this is all from Riri's memories, because in like, I think it was episode 1, I believe, or episode 2. I already forgot. I apologize. But she used this, like, the technology of scanning, like, her brainwaves, Riri's brainwaves, which is really dangerous because of the fact that Ezekiel review that would have made her brain, like, mush, like brain dead. Like, it would literally cause brain damage. But successfully, it worked. And so this is such two big things because, one, Ezekiel, he could be on his origin story right now becoming a villain, to rebuild his family's legacy that he might have felt that Tony Stark took away. And also, to me, I know a lot of people earlier in the, like, on the internet or whatever, they like to say, like, they believe Riri's become the villain. I believe that she's going to have that redemption story. I think, it's kind of like when the villain becomes the hero or the vigilante becomes light, dark becomes light. I think it's going to be one of those. Like, she could go to jail. She could be locked up in prison. Who knows? Because, but who would arrest her? Obviously, the Chicago police or maybe somebody who can lock her up in that prison where General Ross has people in, because technically he hasn't become president in the United States, General Ross, but he could be the guy that could arrest Riri and all her crew who's associated with Hood. So I can see that too. Or Shuri, locks her up in Wakanda. But I think it's going to be something like that. Maybe not getting arrested or getting locked up. But I think by the end of this season, I think Riri's going to have to face the consequences of the choices that she has made, and she may own up to it. Who knows? But it could be like one of those self-pity type scenario stories. I can see that because in this episode, again, when they're doing the mission, things go sideways. People get locked. The whole building went on security lockdown because Riri, she thought she can just hold on a little bit longer before the technology of a weapon of some sort, like alarm triggered, in which it did. And, it caused a lot of problem, but luckily she got a piece of the cloak. But unfortunately, that caused maybe the death of John. I don't think John is dead. I think he just gets arrested. But I believe he's going to snitch on Riri and make it look like this is all her plan. Because in this episode, she left that device that took a piece off of the cloak of Parker or Robin's Hood. And she's freaking out. So, I mean, there can be so much going on because that's how it ended. Is she realized, oh shit, I left this at the place, and the police done picked it up, or security did, and so there's a lot going on with this. And honestly, it's so. I thought this episode was really cool, so revealing, and it's really showing us that Riri is a lost hero for sure. Like I said, I get this feeling this is like a lost hero without a cause. She thinks what she's doing is going to make the world better because that's the mad scientist in her, but she's making like poor decisions that she doesn't realize there's going to be some huge consequence because the police have already showed up, because as it revealed that Stewart is dead, and we kind of know how Stewart is dead because Hood revealed in this episode when he broke the owner of this company's neck, Hunter Mason. He turned into visible, like the cloak, like think of Harry Potter, where he puts on a blanket and now he's invisible. You can't see him. It's one of those, right? And then, when he gets back and Hood is, sad and he's upset about his cousin John, we see like a visual of, like, I believe it's pretty easy to say it now. Mephisto has shown John like suffocating in that room, but also showed like Ironheart's suit. And so I think Mephisto is telling Hood that it's Riri's fault that his cousin is quote unquote dead. We don't know he's dead. He might have just passed out because he was losing air. And that's the whole point, because this whole building cut off circulation. So it makes it hard to breathe for anybody to get out. So he could have just passed out. And the reason why I believe that is I don't think he's dead is because, again, I believe that he's going to tell the cops and snitch on Riri and put this all on her and make it look like Parker Robbins had nothing to do with it. So that's what I think. And I think he's going to pin it on some other people on there that might stick up for Riri, which I believe it probably will happen in that scenario. But again, I think that's pretty interesting that they're going this route. And they're teasing again that Riri could get arrested. Legitly get arrested in this show. Not in real life, but, in storyline. And so it's very interesting where they're going to take her. But again, this is definitely a hero who's lost without a cause. This is the type of story that they're presenting, just based on 3 episodes, of course. And I'm okay with that. I think it's different. It's very different. And it's kind of refreshing. It's not your typical, like how Peter Parker became Spider-Man or Iron Man or Tony Stark became Iron Man. This is more of like not even like a Miles Morales, but this is more of a, start from the bottom and now you're working your way up to the top. Like she's like broke, but she don't have money like Tony Stark, but she doesn't have the resource like Peter Parker did with his high school. He could go to his high school lab, make web fluids and some other stuff. She went to college and she made poor choices of obviously doing people's homework, which is against the law in colleges, of course. And she got caught, right? And so one's like, she's kind of sloppy with her of being sneaky about it, and she's kind of sloppy of like keeping a secret identity, as like Peter Parker, he was always slick and very smooth with creating wet fluids while he was in class. But again, that's Riri's in college. Peter Parker was in high school at the time during like Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming, right? And so there's a big age difference as far as that, but not too much of a big gap difference of age. But the idea of these two characters, Spider-Man and Iron Man, again, like I said, Iron Man had a lot of money. He was born into money. Spider-Man was at a high school that had better resource. Riri is somebody who has to really grind, has to really come up with her own financials, needs, and even Peter Parker as well. But again, he had the high school who had all this extra supplies where he can be sneaky about and not realize it. Riri might not have that source. And obviously this is college. College is a little different from high school. And so, she did this in her dorm room, visiting other college campuses. So, she was going to town, block to block, right? So it's a little different, but her story is refreshing because we haven't seen this type of story in the MCU until now. And what I like about this particular episode, again, is she's learning from her mistakes, but the consequences are going to be very severe, whether it's a physical battle or, again, like I believe that she might get arrested because in timeline order, former President General Ross, he might not be president or he's running it, but he'd be the guy who would arrest Riri and put her in that cell. But how long would she have kept her? But would he kept her that long, all the way up to Captain America: Brave New World? I don't know, but it's a possibility. I mean, it's prison, you know, life sentences. Like it's not a unusual idea of it, but she gonna be that locked up. But again, that's what prison is. You get locked up for a long time like that. So I think, in theory, or as a prediction, I just want to make it clear that I think that she's probably going to get arrested for this, you know, or she's going to turn herself in, either or. But, you know, they got evidence. And if it goes back on Ezekiel, this is definitely the tipping point of him becoming a villain. And that's what I like about that. It's like, this is crazy. Like, the son of a villain that took on Iron Man is in the MCU, older as an adult. And I also like the idea of, this is kind of neat because now we're getting like the younger generation Marvel characters, just like a comic book. It's like Marvel's Champion. You know, that's a comic book series that Riri has been in, obviously IronHeart. And Ezekiel in comic books does try to get revenge on Tony Stark, but not the same way they did him in the MCU, of course. And so it's really refreshing to see like these potential story. Of course, people are going to be mad at it and not recognize this story and be like, this is not my MCU. She could never be Iron Man. Well, she's not trying to be Iron Man. She's trying to be IronHeart. She's trying to be Riri Williams. And she's more and beyond than Tony Stark because, again, Tony Stark has passed away in the MCU, you know, battling Thanos. So she's already surpassed him, you know, just for that reason. And I'm not saying, like, she's better than Iron Man as a fan favorite. No, but I am rooting for this character and this show to be really popular because I think this has such good potential. And it's all right to have a story like this exist in the MCU while we're leading up to Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret War. This is an okay story because there's got to be trial and error. You know, a hero rise above the ashes, you know. This is the idea of the next phase building up, you know. And so there's so much. And now we got this AI Natalie is doing so more similar things to her actual best friend Natalie, who has passed away due to a drive-by shootout. They were just cross paths. And so this is really interesting, and I think this is like such a refreshing story to watch in the MCU. Like, you know, Deadpool, Wolverine to Daredevil, Born Again. These are characters who are already well established. You know, you can say, like, argue about this Daredevil became very popular because of the Ben Affleck or the Netflix series or Daredevil Born Again, but these characters are well known and people kind of recognize that story or just familiar with the Daredevil origin story. Same with Deadpool and Wolverine. And if you know X-Men, you kind of know them. But Riri Williams as IronHeart is a new thing that I think people in time will give a chance and really appreciate this story and realize, like, wow, this is not a bad character at all. This show wasn't bad at all. And, like, they're going to want to see this character even more and watch her grow and become a true hero, a.k.a. an Avengers. So there's so much potential going on in this. But to have the child, the son or a daughter from a past Marvel villain in the MCU is something that they should have done a long time ago. And I'm glad they're doing it right now in this series. And they're really building up this Mephisto character. And I can't wait to see all this. But this is a show to me that's adding more on to the MCU, and it needed this. This is the show right now that the MCU needs, that desperately needed to keep the popularity going, because now you're giving an audience who never heard of Ironheart, don't really have read the comic books of her, but now they get introduced, and they're telling such a great story so far, just based on 3 episodes. That's all I'm saying. I think this season is going to be a banger, and I hope it is, because if I had to give this episode a 1 out of 10, I'm definitely giving it an 8. Like, this was really good. Like, my gosh. Like, it had a good reveal, but they're also introducing new characters from the heroes to the villains, and this is another way to always remind us about Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, of course, and his legacy in the MCU. And I think this is going to definitely pay off, especially when we get to Avengers Doomsday's film. So what a great episode, and I'm glad like the Ezekiel reveal happened. That is so cool. And I hope he builds that machine that his father, well, not his father built, but his father had people create, the one that Iron Man's first Iron Man suit in Iron Man 1 that he did in the cave, right? And I hope he builds that suit, but in his own style, in his own modified way, in his own design and color of the suit, So I hope that's the case with Ezekiel, and I hope that happens. Like, in all seriousness, I do. I think that would be so cool. And it'd be nice to see 2 Iron Man suits or iron suits just battle it out in the sky. And it's been a long time we saw that. It's really been a long time. It's been a few Marvel phases since then. Like, I can also see Rhodey, aka War Machine, showing up too, but that's far fetched, because obviously he is actually captured and he's by Skrulls, so he wouldn't know. But they never said when he got captured by Skrulls. I don't know. Everybody said it happened after Avenger Endgame, but I don't know about that. But as far as I know in timeline, this happens before Secret Invasion, so we don't know when Rhodey got captured by a Skrull. But maybe the Skrull version of Rhodey will show up. I don't know. Those Skrulls still exist in the MCU, so... And I'm just saying that just where it's placed in the timeline order. And just check the Disney Plus, because I don't want to go over and explain why they put it there. But, there's a lot going on. But again, the most important thing of why I gave this an 8, because this is a refreshing story, and it's refreshing to see a brand new character for the casual audience fans who are now just learning about her. I haven't read a lot of comic books about her, and I'm still learning about her as well. So based on my learning about her and just watching this series, I think it's just really great, and I'm really a big fan of this character, Riri Williams. So I'm rooting for this, and I hope they do more with her and the actress who plays this character as well. So that's my review, y'all. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talk and Entertainment official channel. Subscribe, hit that notification button so you can always be updated with all my latest content. Thank you guys, and peace out.